There is a version of healing that looks like armor. The person who has been hurt enough times builds walls so high that nothing can get through. Not pain, not manipulation, but not genuine connection either. They have protected themselves into a kind of emotional fortress that keeps everything out equally. They call it healing. They call it strength. But what they've actually built is an elaborate structure of avoidance. And underneath it, the wound is still exactly where they left it. This is not what a healed empath looks like. A healed empath is something far more rare, far more difficult to become, and far more powerful than anyone who has simply learned to feel less. Sigmund Freud spent decades trying to understand what genuine psychological wholeness looked like in practice, not as a concept, not as a destination to be described in theory, but as a living, observable reality in actual human beings moving through actual human lives. What he found, particularly in his most empathic patients who had completed the full arc of individuation, was a constellation of traits so consistent, so specific, so fundamentally different from both wounded empathy and emotional shutdown that he began to see them as markers, signs that something real had happened inside a person, that the transformation wasn't performed, that it had gone all the way down. These are those traits. The first is the ability to be moved without being swept away. The healed empath feels everything: the grief in a stranger's voice, the tension in a room, the exhaustion behind someone's smile. Sensitivity never disappears. What changes is the relationship with that sensitivity. Freud described this as the development of the observing self, a part of the psyche that can witness emotional experience without drowning in it. Before healing, the empath became every feeling. After healing, they can feel deeply but still remain themselves. This is the difference between empathy as gift and empathy as affliction. The second trait is that they have stopped apologizing for their perception. An empath senses the truth long before the world names it, and for years they apologized for knowing. They softened their clarity. They doubted their intuition. But a healed empath trusts what they feel, privately, quietly, but completely. Freud would call this a sign of individuation, the integration of the inner knower. The third trait is their new relationship with silence. Before healing, silence felt threatening, solitude felt dangerous. After healing, silence becomes home, solitude becomes nourishment. Freud observed that this is not introversion, it is maturity of the inner life. The healed empath enters silence and finds their own company, and realizes it is the company worth keeping. Moon, Part 1 ends here. But the transformation is far from over. The real shift, the one that changes justice, giving, relationships, and self-worth, begins in Part 2. Ready to see the remaining traits that only a truly healed empath develops? Part 2 is coming.